Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast, and of course, we are your number one podcast from bringing you conversations around death, doubt, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here, not only walking the walk, but talking the talk out here, changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before we get started, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in and you have not already, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. This is a live stream event, so if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, before I bring on my guests, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Okay, keep it respectful in the comments, and we're going to have a great time. Now, I'm going to bring on my next guest. Guys, help me welcome my guest, Terri Lee-Shield, to the show. Terri, how you doing?
Hello. Yes, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, it's exciting to be here. My first ever live stream.
This is going to be amazing. See, everybody, we doing it. This is our first time, so make her feel welcome. Let's dive deeper into this. Now, before we get started, Terri, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Brilliant, thanks. Hi, I'm Terri Lee-Shield. I am all the way over in the UK, in the northeast of England. So literally the other side of the pond where you are. And I do a range of different things, but I host a space called Love School, which is unpacking everything that I've learned on my journey from natural healing and holistic recovery. We explore all sorts there. I create courses, different content to support people. And it's kind of about what I learned about looking at ourselves like an ecosystem and connecting with life. So it's mind, body, spirit, relationships, environment, because that was all connected for me on my recovery journey. And I learned so much through the process. I just really wanted to share it. But I'm also creative. That's my background. I'm a designer. I was a photographer for a long time, and I do art and poetry and different writing and stuff. So I try to balance kind of my creative work with the support work that I do. And I live up here in the northeast and walk a lot in the woods with my dog and just have a nice, simple life now.
Simple is good. I love simple
is good.
Yeah, I love simple, right? There's no drama, there's no chaos. It's just real simple, very peaceful, and thank you for joining us today. What time is it there in the UK right now?
Oh, we're at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. here.
Okay.
What time is it where you are? Are you fresh in the morning now?
Yeah, we're fresh in the morning. It's about 10 a.m. here. So, we have a bit of a time difference and everything. But man, this is truly amazing. I was telling somebody, I said, man, I never thought that I would be talking to people from across the world.
I know.
Right?
Is it amazing?
It's amazing, right? And that just gives a whole new meaning to international conversations, right? But what it does, though, Terri, and I want to dive deeper into your journey of how you got to where you are. But what it does, it shows the world that no matter where you are, who you are, or where you're from, we're going through some of the most chaotic things, and we're not out here by ourselves. There are people out here right now that are tuning in that's going to be able to relate to exactly what you've gone through, right? And you're going to give them that encouragement of saying, you know what, I can do it too. Yeah. So now, explain to the audience how you got to where you are today.
Oh, that's such a big question, isn't it? Well, it's funny because where I grew up, which is very close to where I live now, it's a very rural place. It's like an ex-mining industrial town. I'll not go off on one about UK history, but the culture there, it's kind of like small town culture. And we went through a massive collective trauma. So I was kind of born in a time when there was quite a lot of change going on. And I don't know, I guess the culture maybe just didn't suit me as a creative person. And that's something I've grappled with quite a bit because, like I say, I did have quite a lot of childhood trauma. Part of it was like just the way we were kind of raised, the time, I'm an 80s, 90s kid. So it's like emotional repression, I was born into my parents divorced, so I was raised into a single parent family for most of my life, and I suffered abuse at a young age by a close family member, which it just confused me about relationships and everything going forward. So I think I always kind of had this split. So there was like kind of a series of events, like when I was young, I had to repress a lot of what was going on emotionally, the emotional side. And it turns out I'm an emotional person. I'm a creative person, I'm an emotional person. Yeah. And just all that repression and stuff, it just caused us. I didn't like when I look back now, I just didn't understand life. I had all these big questions. I always felt like I had to be something different. I had to hide things. There was these secrets going on. There was stuff happening that I thought wasn't right. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel right, but everyone seemed to accept it. And that whole kind of complex PTSD, like confusion as a kid. And because we struggled like financially, you know, my mum was working often. We were neglected, not intentionally, but just through the circumstances. So I just didn't get the nurture, I guess, that I probably wanted or needed, considering what I was going through at the time. So then I had this kind of ambitious side that came out very much so after a significant event, sexual abuse event. I think I talk about it now a bit like a trauma split. I'm sure you'll identify with as well after the chat we had. It was just like it's the rebellious child. If you're into like parts work and that sort of, I've done a lot of inner child healing over the years. And it was like my teens was like this rebellious streak come up, and it was like, I'm getting out of here. I was really ambitious. I kept getting into a lot of conflict, started with smoking and drinking and making decisions that weren't good for me in the long run. But it just kind of led me. Ultimately, I moved away. I went to uni down in London, which is like the other side of the country. So I moved away from my family and had these really big ambitions. And I was just very naive. City life in the capital city of the country is very different to this small town. So it was a big culture shock. Obviously, I was young when I went there. I literally just turned 18. I was living by myself. I had no idea how to manage money. I had to try and be working myself, get through uni. And we had a lot of fun at first. You know, I would like to say we were having a right old blast, getting into that whole like drinking, partying culture. That was like the norm. And just ended up as I was growing up in my early 20s, and I kind of started a career. I was working as a photographer. So I was on the edge of the media industry. And it just kind of was like snowballing and stuff just kept happening. That's the only way I can explain it. And now I understand things in a bit more of an energetic way. I was just caught in a trauma spiral. So it was like one destructive relationship after another, and they were getting worse and worse, more and more abusive, more and more toxic. Not being able to understand how to run a business, how to pay the bills, how to fit in with society as a creative person. I was a photographer. I just wanted to take photos and have fun and party. And I was getting more and more reliant on drugs, drinking, smoking, even working constantly. So it was like, I was just in chaos, and ended up having repeated rapes and things because I just had no boundaries, or I would make these choices that got me into really dangerous situations, trusting the wrong people. Ended up kind of connecting. There was like a local gang where I lived, ended up getting caught up with them, not getting involved, but they wanted to use the space that I had. And, you know, just on the edges of all this stuff happening, and the media industry, which is very glitz and glamour on one side, but actually is quite manipulative and judgmental on another, that I didn't. So yeah, as you can see by the way I'm talking, my life just got completely chaotic. I couldn't keep a grip of it anymore, and I was only in my early 20s, and so I attempted suicide when I always forget the age, 27, something like that, 27, 28. I just decided, that's it, I'm done. This is too much. And that changed everything. I had a spiritual awakening in that experience, and I call that, like, it's funny because I call that like my past life, even though obviously I'm still here. It's still a continuation of like this life. But yeah, everything was different after that. So I moved back up home, and I just had to start a recovery journey. And it's not been straightforward. That was like, gosh, 12 years ago or something now. It's not been straightforward. I had a lot to sort out. This is what like I talk about a lot with Love School. It's like the reality, like, because I had this spiritual awakening and I had to face some of the things that were happening in my mind, my extrasensory perceptions, all that sort of stuff. That's not very easy to understand. I kind of got into spiritual healing and that sort of stuff. I was like guided there, and because of the spiritual experience that I had, that's guided my entire recovery journey. So I kind of just started off having to like get clean, give up drinking. I still smoked for a lot, but over the years I've slowly given up pretty much every addiction that I've had, one way or another. That's been the journey, just having to like learn how to love myself, to take care of myself properly, to learn how to have better relationships, which is still not easy. I think just everyone in the world at the minute, I don't know what's going on, you know, we're living crazy times. But it's just been the unfolding of that. I changed career. So I left the major industry and I started to get involved with permaculture design, which, if you don't know about it, it's basically it's a way of designing in harmony with nature. So it was originally to do with agriculture and growing food. But because I was reconnecting with myself and nature, and I was a kid of the woods, do you know what I mean? I was like, I was in the 80s. We didn't hang around in the house playing games. It was like we were out in the woods playing games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that and I loved that. And so I just kind of reconnected with all that as through my healing journey, and got in. Maybe it's a little bit of political activism, because I was like, you know, getting into that survivor energy, and it was like I could see how I had been manipulated by society and by all these different rules that was making my life way harder than it needed to be. And so I went through that phase for a while. I kind of started working with community, growing food, designing community gardens and things. And then that was very interesting as well, because that kind of triggered a lot of my trauma as well. But what happened was I kind of dived, got into that world and started working with the community. And gosh, that's not as easy as it sounds. We've all got our shit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm not. We've all got our stuff.
You're fine. You're fine.
So just suddenly like having to dealing with a lot of people, and I was wanting to like share this message about like nature and growing food and spirituality and all that. Let's just love each other. And then the reality of that is very different, it turns out. And it was triggering a lot of my trauma, just being around all different kinds of people and having all their stuff and trying to run. I was like running a community interest company, which is a bit like a social enterprise. So I kind of had another burnout event, which was quite significant, and lost everything. So in between all of this, the reason I'm talking about all this, so in between all this, there's been family bereavements and everything. So literally my life was just one, even on my recovery journey, one thing after another, one trauma, one loss, you know, watching family members die and going through my own trauma. I had a horrific burglary at one point. I lost everything in my studio, and coming through it all after that second, at least, significant burnout event, which again continued. There was even more stuff went on after that. But yeah, just having to really learn how to process the grief, the grief of it all, the loss. Like I lost identities, lost people, lost dreams. Some of the stuff that I've like learned about going through all this is like, whatever it is that we kind of go through or we lose, I do believe that there's lessons and things like that in it. And I do think now, I wouldn't say a gift is not the word, but it's an experience that helps us to grow. And tapping into nature has been really helpful for that, for me. So I've kind of ended up in a place now where, like I say, I'm just getting used to embodying, living in a bit more quiet, a bit more peace, where I prioritize my self-care and work more in a flow and all of that. And I've managed to kind of figure out my way through of how to process all this stuff, deal with trauma, deal with grief. Because even if this manifested as like chronic health stuff for me as well, like last year, I'm terrible with dates and times and all that. Last year, 2022. So that's the year before now, isn't it? Oh, even before that. Where are we? 2025, aren't we?
Yeah, yes, we are.
How fast is it going? But yeah, I had a big health flare up, like, and kind of got caught up in dealing with my physical health. Like, it all just caught up with us, and I just now have so much of a understanding about how that all connects for us. You know, our emotions, our mental health, our physical health, our energy levels, all of it. And it takes its toll. And it took a toll on me, and I had to really kind of work to get myself back on track over the past kind of couple of years. And now I feel like I'm out there. Never say never, but now it's solidified, and I like, as in, my healing is a lot more balanced now, and I found myself in a more natural place. So I'm kind of talking a bit more to people like you, and like I say, sharing our stories and connecting, and talking for way too much there.
Oh, no, you're totally fine. This is your journey, your story, and the people that have been tuning in over here on Instagram and et cetera, they're just sitting back listening right now, because they're, like I said, there's people out here that can relate. I'm one of them. You and I've talked, so I was really, really excited to have this conversation with you, because there's a lot to unpack there, right? And I want to go back a little bit, dealing with childhood trauma, right? Dealing with childhood trauma. And the one thing that I realized, that the childhood trauma, and I can relate to you when you said this, affected relationships that I was in, right? Because of the simple fact of what I had gone through, what I had experienced. And here's the other side of it. As being a young man, no one ever believed me. And now and listening to you, it's like, wow, you know what I'm saying? There's a woman out here that feels this, that's gone through something similar. And there's more people out here like ourselves that have gone through this, right? They've gone through the sexual abuse and things like that. And we can't tell nobody, because we was told to shut up, right? We was told no one's going to believe you. And it made us feel as if, who can we trust, right? Now, I say this, and again, when I say this, I'm only speaking from my perspective right here. I'm not generalizing anyone or anything like that, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you feel that during your journey of healing the child, that it kind of opened up the doors for you to become more aware of what you were doing as you got, or what you had done, and when you got older, bring that recognition to it and start to pinpoint and go, oh, because of this, right? Reason why I ask, because my journey of healing the childhood, healing the child in me, I had to first ask the question, why am I the way that I am? And then I had to go backwards in life, right? And I had to remember people. I had to remember conversations. Every bit of detail that was part of my life, I had to go in and remember. Was it triggering? Yes, but it was worth it, because then I got down to the nitty gritty and went, oh, this is why I was so violent, right? And then we begin to unpack it and add those things in, like we become very protective, or we go into a state of survival. And it reflects in the choices that we make, because, like yourself, we would choose people that would treat us the way that we're used to being treated, and then get mad at them for treating us that way. Right? But like, why you doing that to me? I don't know. Well, you the one that chose me. God dang on, And so I want to get your thoughts on that. Right
now. Oh gosh, I could talk about this forever. Yes, short answer is everything you said. Yeah, like inner child healing has been. It's taken years, and it's been such a significant, impactful. Like I have written a course about this, so if anyone's interested, I have a really in-depth course about inner child healing and reparenting, because it's not something, it's very simple in some ways, but it's complex in others. It's not something you can pinpoint, and it's a process that everyone has to go through differently. But yeah, and this is kind of almost like what ties in with the spiritual stuff, because the inner child wounds, they're nervous system wounds, they're mental wounds, but they're spiritual wounds. And what I found is like I talk about karma quite a bit and things like that, because there's stuff going on that you just can't even explain. And once you see like things like how we create our behaviors, our patterns, our cycles, they're generational. Sorry, I'm getting all EBGBs now. Like, for example, I found after one of my family members have died, I was left to kind of clear out their stuff, and it was a very close family member. And we'd never talked about this, but I ended up with her diaries, right? She had started writing a book and things like that. And I didn't look at them at the time, but years later, when I was going through my inner healing stuff, so this is like nearly a decade later, I found her diary. I came across it again. I was like, oh, I didn't know how to feel about it, but I was like, I want to read it. And I read a section of her diary, right? And it was talking about abuse, family, like sexual abuse that she'd had, or just experiences. She didn't call it abuse, sexual experiences she'd had when she was young. And oh my God, it was the creepiest thing, because it could have been me reading my own diary. And I was like, what the hell? And that was really significant for me, because I have been doing all this, like I say, this inner child healing. And the way I've done it, because I have access to the imagination, because I'd had this spiritual side and I channel in different things, I was literally like meeting different aspects of my inner child and integrating them with like visualizations, different things. There's all sorts of different ways you can do it. You can do it through writing, journaling, like I say, going through your memory. It just depends how like your system works. But yeah, everything that I had done, everything we do is shaped by our early childhood influences, right? And if they've been traumatic, then that's what you have, your brain, your subconscious mind has accepted as normal. And we just play out these patterns again and again. And like I say, it was the weirdest thing when I found that family member's diary, and I realized, oh my God, this really is like some generational stuff. Like it was shocking, but then also it was freeing, because I thought, right, this is a pattern. The reason that things happened the way they did, or the way I was thinking, almost it was as if I'd been singled out and stuff like that, but it wasn't. This is how our family had learned to cope with trauma. It wasn't as if they were trying to harm us or anything like that. It was just they were also wounded. We come from these lines of wounded people, all trying to figure out, we're all out here just trying to survive, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? And
right.
We've got no idea, really, especially if it's been repressed and things like that, what our family members have been through in the past, or what people who've hurt us have been through, all of that. And I'm not excusing anything like, abuse or anything, but the more I was able to unpack it all and see things from different perspectives and heal the wounds within me and things like that, every time it's like a layer of healing that's come, a layer of healing. And in some ways, like it changes everything, because you have more. I had to learn how to have a more emotional capacity, because the way I was responding emotionally to situations as an adult was not always appropriate.
Right.
Let's just say. Because we're responding from a place that hasn't healed from childhood. So literally I had to like go through like a maturing process with that. I had to learn to understand what are my feelings, what are my emotions, how do I express them, in healthier ways? How do I express myself now? I'm not taking this drug or doing whatever it is that I was doing to repress them for my entire life.
Yeah, understood.
And especially when it comes to kind of sexual abuse and things like that, because we don't understand. We haven't been given the experience of maturing our sexuality as we mature emotionally, or as we mature mentally. So there was so much of that to even unpack. And obviously that impacts so many relationships. It's not just your sexual partners, but because of the trauma that I'd had, this is how I continued to get raped and things like that. But because of the trauma I had, one of the events led to a really significant freeze response. So if people don't know about trauma, but there's many different ways we can respond to trauma, and one of them is to freeze. And that was the response that my body, my nervous system decided was the safest response. And when you get triggered, people often think of PTSD triggers and things like anger, outrage, and all things like that. And it can come like that. But for me, I didn't realize for years that I had PTSD because I would just shut down or freeze. And like that would happen in all sorts of situations. And obviously a trigger comes when we are reliving, going through something similar that reminds us of something happened. And it could be anything. It could be a smell, it could be a taste, it could be a sound, a touch, anything sensory, right? There's no logic or reason to it. Right. So if you've had things like sexual abuse, and like what I realize now is like I'd had this freeze response trigger. So sometimes with partners and different things, I would literally freeze. Or when I was in connections with men and they were maybe making advances that I didn't want, that's a trigger, but my body would freeze. I couldn't respond. And therefore I would end up being in situations where I would be raped again because I couldn't respond. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't say no. I couldn't move myself out of the situation. And that just kept happening in like different ways. So the pattern for me, it was like, I have to figure this out. Like I couldn't carry on, keep, getting into these situations. And especially once I had more capacity for it and I'd started facing the reality that I had been voiding most of my life, because I had serious bouts of depression, anxiety, all that stuff. And it was all because I had never admitted this abuse. I had never like looked at it or anything like that. I wasn't ready, whatever. And then when I started looking at it and I started realizing, oh my God, the reason this is happening is because of that response like years ago. I have to heal that. I have to look at that.
Yeah.
So there was a period in my life where I just, I decided ultimately to report certain things. I went into I got some proper therapy for a change, which is the only time I ever got proper therapy, was through rape crisis counseling. And they explained a lot of stuff. That explained a lot of things to me when I was like, because I had to do most of this stuff myself, was understand trauma. And they explained different things that I was already kind of looking into, but made a lot more sense, like inner child healing and this, like say this thing with the rebellious side, like how that all fits in. We're trying to protect ourselves. So because I had a freeze response, which is like a vulnerable child response, I'm going to make myself small and hide and I freeze. Then you get this, like I said, this trauma split, which I had definitely, that came in my teens, which was then this rebellious side that was like, I'm going to fight back. I'm going to rebel. And like I say, that's what ended up getting into addictions, making wrong choices, partying, going, just really that kind of like, I was a bit out there. And she was very angry. That's been one of the hardest, parts, if you like, of my inner child, because nobody likes an angry teenager, really, do they? But I've had to learn to love her. I had to learn to integrate that rage, integrate the anger, understand why she was angry. You know what I mean? All of that. And it takes time, and that's why I call the Space Love School, because it's all, for me, it's all been about increasing my capacity for love for myself, for other people. Like, because understanding then when I was getting caught in these relationships, because prior to my changing my perspective of healing and recovery, I always felt like a victim in the relationships, not consciously, but I always kind of like you said, you were choosing these people, but they were treating you like shit. Or like I got into some really badly psychologically abusive situations at the time. Like now I would never choose that. Like, and now I know, but then I didn't. And it was almost as if it was just life was just happening to us, and like, oh, that's the relationship I'm in. You know what I mean? And I didn't know how to deal with any of it. And I didn't know how to love myself in that situation. And then when I actually got into a good relationship, I didn't know how to love them. I was the one then that was behaving badly. I was the one having triggers. I was the one that was, and then I got into a really bad codependent one where we were both as bad as each other. But, I've been through all of them sort of relationships where you've just got to face it. And it's like, oh, this is not, once I realized this is not going to go away. This is not going to go away. I can't ignore it. It's not just going to stop. I have to like look at it. I have to take responsibility for my behavior, take responsibility for what I'm bringing into the relationship, because I can't expect a partner or a friend or whatever to just accommodate me when I can't even accommodate all of myself. You know what I mean? I can't even face my own bad behavior. I can't even control like the way I'm speaking to somebody or how I'm responding to a situation. So yeah, I just kind of, all of that has been, it just comes round and round, doesn't it? I think you get like tested, you get we test ourselves. Ultimately, we learn, and then something happens and we get choices all the time where we're like, well, can I respond differently now? If I know better, can I do better? And that's been the journey for me. Yeah, and it all connects, which I think was your original. I've gone off on one, but everything I thought was irrational that I used to do, right? I can directly trace back to an event in my childhood.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's not irrational at all. It makes complete sense because it links exactly to that. That actually, for whatever age-year-old child, that was a perfectly like reasonable response. You know what I mean? Like I had all these expectations of myself that I couldn't meet them standards then because I was operating from childhood wounds. And so this is the reparenting process, which a lot of people talk about inner child healing, but don't seem to talk about the reparenting process. For me, the reparenting process is like showing up for yourself. Like, so you show up for yourself as these roles of what you didn't get, especially with complex childhood. Like say, if you were neglected, if you had like overbearing parents or absent parents, all of that, we have to then, because we kind of have all these expectations of what we wanted as kids. This is where the wounds come from. Ultimately, that's been, I guess, the healing, the growth, the recovery is then learning, can I give that to myself? And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you can. You can show yourself love. You can show yourself compassion. You can show yourself discipline. You can show yourself healthy boundaries. And then once you start doing that, you show up. That's the reparenting process. Like almost being able to see yourself in all these different parts and heal the inner child through being that adult you wanted there, that adult you can actually rely on. And sometimes that's compassion, and sometimes that's nurturing, like we would want, you know, from a perfect mother in a perfect world that none of us get. But sometimes we have to show up like that for ourselves as much as we can, and we've got to nurture them wounds and let them express themselves emotionally. And then other times we want that strong, dependable, like father figure that's like, no, okay, that's enough crying. Dust down the wounds now. Come on, you're strong enough. You're going to do this. Move on. Next, you know what I mean? Like we need to be able to do that for ourselves. We need to, if we're going to be.
Yeah. Well, I think there needs to be a balance, right? There needs to be a balance. And I'm speaking from a man's point of perspective when I say this. And so, you know, there has to be a balance, because when you learn how to suppress instead of express, you know, it comes out in different ways. You said something interesting, that anger, right? And I can relate to that so much, you know, on such a deeper level. And it took a long time for me to realize what was going on. And then when I started seeing the similarities with other men like myself, the light bulb went off. And what you just said, that I was going, oh, I know what you're doing. I know exactly what you're doing. And I could be wrong, you know, because it may not be the same for most people, but what if I'm right? Right. And so I want to ask this question. When we begin to explore what the stages of grief look like, anger being one of the most prominent ones that we identified, well, the pillars of grief, right? Anger is one of those things that you can build upon. And what I found out is that the anger resulted into the emotion of, or the reaction of crying. Reason being, and again, I'm only speaking from my perspective, from what I've learned throughout my journey. I realized that I've never been taught to ask for help. I had never been taught to, you know what I'm saying, being able to express, you know, being afraid, or, you know, I've never been able to express any of these things. It took me a long time to learn how to articulate and put words to what was actually going on and being honest with myself. And so what I started to do, I was going, as a human being, a lot of times to show that we're brave, we tend to suck it up. And it comes out in the form of anger. Anger leads to violence. Violence leads to addiction. Addiction leads to more unresolved trauma, making very bad decisions and things like that. Instinctively, we know that something is wrong with us. But instead of addressing those things, we cover it up within a smoke shield because it's easier to show you that I'm strong than I am vulnerable. So when we express that part of anger, it's like, oh, that person is crying. They're just doing it in a different way. Perception versus reality, right? Because again, if you don't know what a person has gone through, you'll never understand the language that they're speaking. Grief is its own foreign love language that unless you've gone through it and really explored it, you'll never be able to speak it because it looks totally different from what you may perceive it to be.
Yeah.
And so, in dealing with the things, and I love this term, I told myself this and I posed this to myself, self-inflicted wounds are the worst ones, right? What I mean by that, every relationship I've ever been in, I had to take accountability and learn how to forgive myself, learn how to have grace for myself, and things like that, and know that I was the problem. So that whole term was, it's not you, it's me. No, mine was very true. It wasn't you, it's me. And I've been through tons. I've had a very, very destructive path. And unintentionally, or maybe in some cases very intentionally, I sought out the pain. I wanted somebody to blame for what I was going to do. Right. So if I got into a relationship, I would always tell people, and people never really paid attention to what I was doing because some of the women that I was with, they was like, oh, I can fix Tony. I was going, yeah, I give you about 4 to 6 months. Yeah, I'll give you about 4 to 6 months, right? And then after that, I'm gonna start saying. So I'd say this, and no one paid attention, and not understanding that I'm setting them up for me to hurt them or for them to hurt me, and things like that. And I would make the excuse, well, I'll just be the villain in your story if that's what you need to do, right? And then I go on to the next one, and so forth and so forth. So, needless to say, there was a path. I have a path of destruction, and I had to go back. I had to go back and find a lot of these women that I've done this to. I had to apologize to them. I had to tell them, I'm sorry for the way I've treated you.
Yeah.
And that is hard to do. But then here's something even harder. I had to begin to look myself in the mirror and say, I'm sorry for the way that I treated you. Can you forgive me for the things I didn't know? I want to be better.
Yeah.
I want to make better choices. And something inside of me was like, well, you're going to have to learn how to be alone for a while. Don't do this anymore. You can't keep going back and repairing the damage that you're doing to yourself. But most importantly, these people that you're doing it to don't deserve that. So let's go back. Let's take some time to yourself. Let's heal. Let's figure out these different things. And which, all of that, I had to stop drinking because I was a bad alcoholic. I had to stop fighting because I've been fighting my whole entire life. I had to stop going to places and looking at people and going, ooh, I think I'm going to go over here and have a conversation with this young lady over here, right? With the intentions of, doing, I'm a guy, right? With the intentions of, well, here we go, right? But there was always an excuse. And once I realized that I was using one to compensate for the other, I was like, you know what? I need to learn discipline. I need to go back to the basics, respect, morals, not just respect for for people, women, but respect for myself. Discipline myself to say no.
Yeah.
This is not okay. unless you have this is my self-talk now, right? And I would go, unless you have the intentions of having something long-term with this individual and taking the time to get to know them and vice versa, don't you dare. So there was a lot of telling myself no. There was a lot of telling women, no, I can't do that. And setting healthier boundaries, right? And so there was a lot of people that did not understand that. And I would look at them and go, I get it. And maybe it's not for you to understand, but this is my own personal journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? This is my own personal journey, and it has nothing to do with you. And they would look at me and go, is something wrong with you? I go, no, there's nothing wrong with me. But yes, I'm damaged. I'm damaged, right? And so it made me very, very cautious of how I showed up with myself before I became brave enough to say, I need to show up for Tony. Right? I need to show up for Tony, because spiritual awakening, I said, you know what? I want to be a better version of myself. And what ended up happening is that the first version that came after all of that was a better version of me. But then there have been several different other versions of me that came up, and I began a more authentic walk of saying, I want to know who I truly am in this world, right? I want to see the world differently. I want to see people's pain. I want to see people's trauma, not to try to heal them, but to try to understand how I can be better at being in a space with them. Right?
Because it's like it's showing up with that. There's not enough credit. I think it's like a big pattern in our collective consciousness. And it is to do, I think, with our collective spiritual awakening, our evolution, and just the fallback of religion and things, and that pushback, because there's something to be said from living in your integrity, for being responsible for yourself, for being accountable. And this is like part of the wounds that we're dealing with trauma. That's what, like, trauma is a spiritual wound. You can be harmed physically and it doesn't traumatize you. You know what I mean? The trauma is something deeper. You can be hurt physically, but it doesn't mean you're going to carry that scar for the rest of your life. So there's something else there that means that certain events or certain things that happen to us cause these emotional reactions. And there's so much more to it than just, like I say, that this surface level stuff. And it's like there's a part of us, especially like if you've got a lot of these complex like neglect wounds and all this stuff that we didn't get when we were kids, and that we want to be held responsible and accountable. Like that was something I've had to do the same thing. It's like try and make amends for the things that I did. Like sometimes you can't do that physically with people, but you have to do it in another way. Like I'll talk about that, like when I talk about karma, like that's what I think it is, to repay our karma. It's like taking responsibility for what you've done, right? This is my action in it. It might not have been, we might not have chosen some of the events that we had when we were young. I mean, we can have a deep talk about whether we did or not spiritually, but something happens to us, we respond a certain way, and we cause, as you said, your trail of destruction in response to that, right? We need to take responsibility for the trail of destruction we caused, heal so that we're not continuing it moving forward. Once we've taken responsibility, being accountable, right? Okay, there's a consequence. We want some sort of consequence for that, because that's what then keeps us back in alignment. And so if you can repay that debt, like karmic debt, however you want to refer to it, if you can make amends, if you can go, right, you know what, yeah, I fucked up. I've made horrible mistakes. I was not a perfect person. I didn't know what I was doing, but now I know better, and I'm going to try my very best to make amends for this, take responsibility for it, and move forward in a different way. And like I say, you might have to I had to go through all this process, like with the healing. Sometimes, you've got to break down and be vulnerable and allow yourself to like feel that. Because that's what we're avoiding all the time, the drugs and that. I don't want to feel the consequences of everything that I've done. So I'll just take more drugs and I'll just cover up with more bad mistakes and all this. And then actually, when you feel into what you've done and allow that to release, and like then the anger and things come up at the anger of what was done to you, and you've got to feel into that. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
that's like the energetic playback. That's like, I think, like being present with it instead of avoiding it, because you spend the whole time avoiding it. So you know the price. Like, so one really, really significant thing that came out of, like I say, the one decent therapy I had was I was talking about being afraid of the consequences of like changing or reporting what had happened and that sort of thing. And she just looked at me and she was like, how long have you been living with the consequences of not doing that? She's like, you already know the
Mhm.
consequences of what you've always done. And I was like, oh fuck, she's right. I did. I already had like however many years at that point, 30 odd years, evidence of the consequences of suppressing my emotions, of not holding people to account, of not living in integrity. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
yeah, it was scary. I had no idea what was going to happen if I was like to take responsibility, if I was to start making new choices. I didn't know what was going to happen. Yes, that was scary, but you know what? You know what wasn't good? The consequences of carrying on doing the same shit I'd done years and years and years
Yeah.
and years. So
Yeah.
once you were at that point, it was like, I can't go back now. Like she'd like done something in my mentality, and it was like, yeah, I already know them consequences, and I don't want them. I've already know the consequences. I don't want them. I don't want to be hurting people. I don't want to keep getting hurt. So therefore, I have to be brave enough to allow myself to feel, to respond, and like you say, just completely shifting my life into not ignoring myself, not ignoring my needs, not avoiding my bad behavior, not, you know what I mean? Like literally starting to make new
Yeah.
choices then, because there was no way like I wanted to go back. And I think exactly what you were saying, like when you get that point and you're just like, you know what, this is not about you or anything like that. This is about me. And I know the consequences of fucking around, or I know the consequences of getting involved in
Yeah.
this when I
Yeah.
haven't got the right intentions. And for me, that's been like the whole spiritual process has been like building up the ability to live in integrity, whatever the consequence, because I know if I start to make choices that don't align with my better knowing, I already know what the consequences are going to be because I've lived them again and again and again. And it's like, no, I don't want that. So this choice might be really difficult, or it might be really scary because I've no idea what's going to happen. And maybe even, I'll be whatever it is, held to account, or somebody might be upset with my response, or whatever it is, doesn't matter. I don't know what's going to happen, but that unknown is better than what I
Yeah.
know I'm
Yeah.
capable of, because like I say, it's our own capabilities often that we're the most terrified of, especially like someone who's like had a past like yours or like mine, where when I'm raging, I can rage. I'm a fire sign. I've got a lot of, and I know your history as well. Like, when that expresses through like violent stuff, we know the capacity of our anger or
Mhm.
I know how vicious my tongue can be even. I know how much destruction I can make if I decide that I want to, if I'm going to slip into that. And it's like we're
Yeah.
scared more of our capacity, what we can do, and especially once you know what you can do, because you constantly pushed your boundaries your whole life, which is what I used to do. That rebellious side that wanted ambition, all that, constantly pushing boundaries, like somebody give me a boundary, and nobody ever did. So I just got bigger and bigger and all that.
Yeah.
Choosing then to be like, you know what, I can express that energy in different ways. I can express that differently. And I that's how I kind of got into doing more like healing stuff with art, creativity, creating. I still express my anger and things like that, but I do a lot of like art and things like that, trying to express that in a different way that works for me, that's more productive. And having difficult conversations, that was like something that I've really had to learn, like communication skills, because I did not have those. Believe it or not, like I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to talk like this years ago. I've literally had to, as you said, I had to go through a whole process of learning to even recognize emotions, learning what they were called, learning how to express them, having the difficult conversations, because our pattern in our family was, let's not talk about it. We'll just not
Yeah.
talk about it. So I literally did not have those language skills. Energetically, if you want to call it like throat blocks or whatever, trauma blocks, doesn't matter what you call it. I didn't have the skills to be able to ever talk about my emotions or talk about my anger or talk about these complex thoughts or ideas. Admit, confess, any of that stuff. I didn't know how to do that safely. So I had to learn all of that, and having difficult conversations, like say, it might be scary. I've never had it before. I've never actually, confronted someone with their bad behavior in a relationship before. I've never actually set a boundary in a relationship before. I've no idea how this person's going to respond. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do know what's going to happen if I continue this pattern.
Right.
Once we've got that evidence, we know. So,
it's funny that you say that, right? Because I was just talking with a friend of mine not too long ago, and I'm the type of friend. I'm a true friend. I'm gonna tell you if you're messing up. I'm gonna tell you, like, look, you fucking up, young lady. You really are. And they may take it, however they take it. Doesn't bother me. You're gonna be mad at me, and I tell them all the time. You get mad at me, it's not on me. That's on you. You have to address the fact that you just got mad at me. Now ask yourself, why did you get mad at me? It's because that I'm bringing the truth to you, and I come from a man's perspective. So I listen to what they say. And I go, well, when are you going to stop making excuses for your fucked up ass decisions? And then you making these damn decisions and you want everybody else to accept your bad choices.
Yeah.
And then you get mad when they do exactly what you allow them to do so you can keep making these bad choices. And I told her, I said, look, you know the definition of insanity. It's doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. And I go, eventually, you have to look at what you're doing to yourself. And then you got to ask yourself, is this what you want? Because if that's what you want, then you keep doing what you do, right? I'm not here to judge you. I'm just going to bring the reality to your perspective. Because for one, I do that because I had to do it. But I didn't have anyone to bring it to my forefront and say, hey, Tony, you're messing up, right? You're fucking up. You're going out here, you're doing this, and things like that. We got a comment up here, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's and she was upset. Then she thought about it for a minute. I said, now, before you say anything, because I don't want you to have a reaction. Reaction is emotional. Respond. So take the time and just really think about what I said. And if I'm wrong, I will come and apologize to you. I will, right? Because the last thing that I want to do is do something that's going to damage you more, right? Let me know. Just let me know, and I'm a man about mine. I will apologize to you. I said, but if I'm right, would you allow me to get you the right support and some therapy and things like that? Let me connect you with some pretty good people, right? And we can start this. And I'm still going to be your friend. I'm still going to walk with you, right? I'm still going to walk with you because you're going to need it. And when she came back, she messaged me the other day. Was like, look, is it possible that you can connect me with someone? I realized that I've been messing up. And I don't want this anymore. I said, now, there you go. There you go. Now, which leads me to my next. Let's dive into this comment right here. We have a I wish the name will pop up. If you can see this, it says LinkedIn user. If you can put a name up here, so I can give credit to you for putting this amazing comment up here. They said when their mother passed away, it was their biggest heartbreak. They shut down, felt empty, didn't want to do anything, no appetite, couldn't talk or express what they were feeling, just cried and cried until now. They can't truly say they've moved on. It's been hard for them to move on. But I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you start on this comment right here.
Yeah, because why wouldn't we cry and cry and cry? You've just lost your mother. Like, this is one thing that I really realized was because I had been taught so much to repress emotions when it was completely valid. Like, when we lose someone we dearly love or who has been significant in our life, even if it's been a complex relationship or whatever, why wouldn't we cry them a river? Like, somebody that we loved has been lost and they're never going to come back. You know what I mean? Like, that is a natural response. And I know it's horrible when you're in it, somebody saying that, but I think that's how we like honor ourselves. So the emotion, the feeling of loss, or the feeling where we're just, like you say, we lose our zest for life, or whatever process it is that we go through, and we just feel really sad and we just feel really depressed. That almost is like our body's way of paying a respect to we've lost. We build our life around people, and the closer people are to us, the more we build our life around them in one way or another. We're connected to them mentally, physically, emotionally at times. They're part of our past. They're part of our present. And we've maybe even projected them that they're part of our future. And when that's gone, it leaves a gap. There's something that needs to be refilled. And I just have learned when anything like that comes up, when the sadness comes up, I just dive into it now. You know what I mean? Because I spent so long thinking I shouldn't cry, or this is wrong to be depressed, or whatever. Years I was stuck in depression, telling myself I shouldn't be depressed. So I was depressed, trying not to be depressed, shaming myself for being depressed, and just keeping myself stuck in depression. And what I've learned now is that if something's coming up like that, if I'm in that state, I just dive into it. I think, well, why not? Because I love this person dearly and they're not in my life now. And you know what? If I want to spend crying, I'm going to cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry until the tears have gone. And then what generally I find emerges is we get memories coming up. We get to remember them again. We get to feel that love again. And that's what starts filling us up again. We have to like empty ourselves out, and then we can allow space to remember in a different way. Like I've never lost a parent. I haven't had that experience. I don't know what that's like, but I have lost family members that were my closest family members, as in like closest to emotionally, that I would connect with the most often, and things like that. And yeah, some days I still cry for them. I'm never going to not. Yeah. I'm never going to not, because some days it's like, I wish they were here and they're not. And I wish they could meet this person that I've connected to, or I wish they could see what I've done, or I wish I could just share this, or you hear a voice or a memory or something like that, and you just remember, oh, they're gone. And it's sad. Like, it is sad, but the other side of it, because I tend to find that these emotions comes in swings. The other side of that, right, is it's sad because it shows us how precious our life is. So this is where, I was talking about like the nurturing mother and then the disciplined father. It doesn't matter how you visualize that or anything like that. Allow ourselves to be mothered. Allow ourselves to cry. You know what I mean? If you're hurt when you're a kid, or you're sad, you want to go up to this imaginary, loving, person that's going to care for you and let you cry and rub your head and tell you you're loved and tell you it's okay to feel how you feel, right? Right. So do that for yourself. That's exactly what I do now. I'm having a cry day. I feel sad, and I allow myself to feel sad. I allow the memories to come up, or whatever it is that's happening. And then something kind of else emerges, which is like, oh my God, like, how precious is this life we've got? Right. Because none of us are getting out alive 100%. You're going to lose everything. You're going to lose everything in your life. You're going to lose every person, every job, every project you care about, every home you have. At some point, right? However that happens, it's most likely you're going to lose it. So it's only precious while we've got it. And it's precious because we're going to lose it. And it's precious because we care about it. So it's like, the more I just allow that to be, it gives us, again, come back to like what Love School's about. It gives you more capacity to love. Because the more you allow yourself to be sad over how much you love something that's gone, is the more capacity you have to actually love something while you've got it. Because when we repress the grief, when we don't cry for that person, there's like a fear there, right? So it's like, there's grief, there's all this sadness, right? And if we try and repress it, or tell ourselves we shouldn't be doing that, whatever it is, that's a fear. It's like, it's this fear about our capacity. It's this fear about how I don't want to feel so sad, because I've actually got this fear that I can feel so sad I'll never come back from it, right? It's like that. It's the same with angry. I don't want to let myself feel angry because I've got this fear that I'm going to get so angry I might just explode forever, which is not true. We might, you know what I mean? Our sadness is not
It
going to
feels
last.
that way.
Yeah, but in the moment, it does feel that way. And it's the fear
Yeah.
that kind of caps that. So if we can like let go of the fear, it allows ourselves to feel more, and then it just moves through us. So then we can like feel other things like love again and gratitude again.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so
most definitely.
was when I was like capping things, when I was trying to not feel sad or not feel angry or whatever it was, I was also not wanting to feel happy or not wanting to feel gratitude or not wanting to feel all this other stuff because I might lose it. You know what I mean?
You know, Terry, part of that is, and and you're absolutely right. I want to add to that, right? So I want to change the terminology that this user used or that this individual used, and I really wish I could, if you're out there, you're still listening, put your name in there because I want to give respect to you, and things like that, because what is showing up on the screen is LinkedIn user. So throw your name up there so I can give you some respect. But part of this, I want to change the terminology of moving on. Right? Change it to moving through.
Yeah.
What this does, when you begin to change the terminology, you begin to allow yourself to find those pathways of remembering, of allowing yourself to feel what you're going through. Look, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Okay. Grief is one of those things, there's not a blueprint. We just have individuals who have experienced grief on such a deep embedded level, and we put two and two together by connecting the dots from how everything has shaped us in the way that it does, right? And coming from a place of a man who have experienced the loss of a parent, who have experienced the loss of a sibling, 400 plus friends, was alcoholic, right? My son, all of these different things. And it took me hitting my version of rock bottom to understand that there was no escaping what I was going through, what I was going through. So I learned how to move through it and allow myself to begin to, make space, not only for the healing, but for the remembering and revealing, right? Because that's part of healing. This is a part of life. And Terry said it, and I'm gonna reiterate what she said. None of us is getting out of here alive. As long as you're living, breathing, walking, and trying to do something in this world, and you keep making connections, we're all going to lose people. And then eventually people are going to lose us. Now, the beautiful part about it is that you can leave these people with beautiful memories. Give them their kudos. Give them their flowers. But allow yourself to get those flowers too, right? Be what you need. Let them be what you need for what you need. And then you can, in turn, be what they need. It's a give. It's nothing but love. Once you can be able to embrace those things, take some time, please. Don't rush it. You'll get to where you need to get when you get there. It's not a race. So, as Terry said, and a lot of other people that are expressing themselves over here on, on LinkedIn and things. On Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all you guys, that are expressing yourselves. Look, check this out. Grief is going to be part of your journey, no matter what you do. It can be a job, it can be a home, it can be a vehicle, it can be a pet. It can be moving from place to place. It's part of the human condition. It really is, right? And that's a beautiful thing because it means that you cared enough to love what you do or love what you have, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Be a human. Just be a human.
Yeah.
But also understand that the people that come along your life and things like that, they probably have experienced something too, right? I'm a huge supporter of therapy, finding the right support for you. As they say, finding your tribe. No matter, look, I'm talking to Terry in the UK. And we can relate to everything that I can relate to everything that she said. We've talked, and you know what I'm saying. And she can relate to the things I've gone through. Y'all can relate to what you see how vast this is. This human thing, this thing that we call the human condition of life. We are all connected in some way, form, or fashion. So take away from this conversation and have some grace for yourself. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
If you need to take some time and just sit alone, don't sit there for too long, though. Please don't. Don't sit there for too long. But when you're ready and you're able to breathe a little bit, go find your tribe. Go get yourself into therapy. Find that support group, that of people. And don't be afraid to bounce around to different support groups until you find what you need. Okay, that's the beautiful thing about this. You don't have to be committed to one thing when you can go. There's so many different other things out here. Go and find that, please. Last thing that we want to do, Terry and I both, and so many other people out here, we don't want you to get to a place to where you feel you can't come back. That is a very, very dark place. It's full of hurt. It's full of anger. It's full of chaos. These are things that you're going to go through. But if you wallow in it too long, they can be very life-changing in so many different ways. And we don't want you to get to that point to where you may feel as if you have no way out. Because, look, Terry and I, we do this work. We're vulnerable. Terry's been sharing her story, open, vulnerable, brave, taking us on this journey, and things like that. But it's what we've been able to do with it. Hello, Rachel. But yes, it's been what we've been able to do with what we've gone through to be able to give back to other people. Now, not everybody's going to do this. Not everybody, right? Some people are going to go off and do different things, right? So we're going to get this. This goes into my next question for Terry. I want to say or ask, what do you think that your past has shaped your creativity?
Yeah, that's part of the creative process for me. I just wanted to, sorry, before we can talk about creativity, but kind of links. Even when we feel alone, right? I'm a huge advocate for getting out in nature, because as you were saying, right, we can connect with each other by the internet of things now and across all different countries and all that. And this human condition that kind of connects us is our natural way of being, right? And if we ever feel like when any time that I feel disconnected, I mean, being in nature is just part of my daily life now. But just for me, spending time in nature is so healing because it teaches us everything we need to know about loss, about life, about death, because nature is literally like a constant creative process. And what are you giggling for?
I'm laughing at the comments. Jesus, Rachel, stop.
What are they saying?
I'm sorry, Terry. She's over here making me laugh. She needs to stop.
I can't see the comments. How do I see the comments? Ah, okay.
So
you're getting hit on the.
She's just giving me a hard time. That's all.
She's already said, Rachel. It's a no. He's working on himself right now.
No. She's
to be honest, I've just seen the comments. I clicked on the wrong
right, so look, that's why I started laughing, because I'm like, oh my God. So
no, Rachel, he's working on himself. Yes, get out in nature. That's
You could laugh too, Terry. Like this is pretty cool, right? Like this is just pretty cool. We got people tuning in and things like that, you know. But go ahead, continue.
yeah,
Rachel, stop.
no, it's fine. It breaks the energy up a little bit, isn't it? After we talked about grief, because that's what happens. Like a new energy comes along, breaks it up, and we can have a laugh about something that's going on.
Right.
I can get hit on live. Yes, but yes,
Oh
creativity.
my God.
That has been so. If you go to, I've put it on my thing, loveschool.uk/grief, right? So the person that was really struggling, you might this is just it's a free PDF guide that I've done, just about how I learned to process grief in my way, and there's like different things that we can do in there, and one of them is like transmuting the energy. When I talked about that before, about like having emotions and not knowing what to do with them, this top I'm wearing right now is based on artwork that I created that I turned into stuff to sell, so I like wearing it, and this particular one is called Transmute. So like the energy of transmute is where we take something from one state and move it into another. And this is what nature does, right? Because if we understand that energy can never be destroyed. So the love that we have, like the love you have for your mother, it can never be destroyed. It just gets transmuted constantly from one form to another. So sometimes that form is like sadness because of the loss. And then sometimes it's gratitude because they were alive, right? It's like constantly being moving and cycling around. And that's why I think if we go into nature, for me, that was like so deeply nourishing, because I could see how that's just what life does. That's what life does constantly. Something dies and it feeds the soil, and then something else grows. And when I was working with my emotions and things, because I didn't have the verbal ability yet, because I didn't know how to communicate verbally, I would just tap into like how it felt and reconnecting with my body. So I wasn't repressing them feelings. It was like, well, what do I feel like? And then it was like, became a bit of fun, became a bit like a game. Like, well, if this motion was a color, what would the color be and how would it move? And then I ended up making loads of healing art, I call it, which is just different like ways that my body and my imagination was picking up energy. And that was like a way for me to transmute it. So, and bring it to life a bit and get in touch with it, how it felt in my body, how I wanted to express that. And then I use that now in like different ways to just express myself in different ways that can't be expressed, or that I don't have to express verbally even. Sometimes if we've got people around, then we can express ourselves verbally. Sometimes we don't want to. Sometimes I just want to put on my transmute hoodie, which was like today I was a bit like, oh, I've got all this energy, we're having this chat, what am I going to, I'm like, right, it's transmute today, I'm going to take all this energy I've got, I'm having a chat with Tony, and it'll just come out in whatever way it needs to through the words.
Yeah.
And that's all that happens in a grief process, is we're constantly like, or any trauma, whatever it is, right, that we're working through, we're just moving the energy from being stuck and contained in us, from hurting us, or then lashing out and hurting other people, and just turn it into something else. And it can be anything else. Like, that's the creative process. It can be anything. I got like planting the garden. That was really therapeutic for me, watching things grow, doing art, writing, talking to people, physical movements, you know, giving people a hug, making love, whatever it is, you know, all these different ways we can express our energy that doesn't have to be in, you know what I mean, in one thing, in words or in tears and whatever it is. So sometimes, going back to what that person on LinkedIn said, when, you know, she says she felt empty and she didn't want to do anything. She had no appetite, couldn't talk or express what she was feeling. Don't think about it as talking then. You know, sometimes just like going into that, it might be, I don't know what your mother was like. It might be something she liked baking. So you might just feel like, I don't want to talk about how I feel, but I'm going to bake a cake because my mom taught me how to bake a cake, and now I can do that. And then I can eat the cake, and it's almost like keeping her memory alive. And you don't move on from it. Like you said, you don't move on from anything. You move through it. So that comes with you, that those skills, the influence people have on you in your life, it stays with you. As long as you keep that alive, they're still with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just find that, for me, that's how I always like bring myself back into alignment, or just feeling more comforted by it. Is just move the energy. Don't try and push it away. Just move it through. So I feel sad for a while, and then I might want to do something with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. First, before I make my comment, I want to give a huge shout out to Willa Animals Protection over here on Instagram. Thank you guys for tuning in. So we got a lot of great people that have been tuning in on Instagram. Thank you guys for all of that. Everybody's been tuning in on all the other social media platforms. Thank you guys for always tuning in and just making these conversations that much more fun to do and engaging with us and things like that. You guys already know. And I want to add to what you just said, Terry. Like part of this thing that people don't really understand, doing things that you used to do with your loved one can be very therapeutic. Like one of the things, relating to what you said about the creativity, I've for many, many years, I used to draw when I was a kid. I just loved drawing, always dreamed of being a comic book illustrator, things like that. And through the years, I crushed the nerves in my hand, so I lost the feeling. And so, I guess in a lot of ways, I just kind of gave up for, almost 30 years. I gave up. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Right. What I'm saying? I can't feel anything. I can't, like I have it in my head, but I can't express it. I can't put it down the way that I used to. So, I've been learning different ways. And since I've been able to do this, there's been so many other things like the tools and stuff that are now available, that I can go in and go. And I just love messing around. Half the stuff that I do, people don't even see. Right.
Yeah.
But it's just for me, and I have a younger sister and she's constantly like, I want you to send me some artwork. I want to. And so I do send a lot of my artwork to her because I know that she just wants them. She knows that she takes them, she archives them. And, and to see the smile on her face when she gets them and, to hear the smile and on her voice when I talk with her, she's just like, oh my God, like, I have a piece of my brother now. I have something that, I'm saying I can show to, show to people like this is what my brother did for me. Right. Yeah. And that makes me feel good as her bigger brother to have that sort of relationship with her. But to also know that she's going to appreciate it. She's definitely going to appreciate it. And I do it just for her. I really do. But now, like speaking of the creativity and things like that, somebody challenged me the other day. And I may just I'm gonna put this on you, Terry. Like I'm gonna put this one on you. Okay. So yeah. So what I'm saying, that's
I'm ready.
Right now.
I've no idea what's coming. I'm ready.
I know, what I'm saying, but a friend of mine challenged me to do a comic book. And the comic book is going to be called Grief Guy. And this is a guy who is
Grief God.
No, Grief Guy.
Guy.
Okay. Guy, G-U-Y. So a guy that was born with this gift of empathy, grief, and trauma and things like that. His gift is being able to see other people's pain. And so, it's a gift and a curse in the same sense. So there's certain rules that he has to follow, things like that, but he's forever wandering around. He's moving from place to place. He's not allowed to have family. He's not allowed to fall in love. He's not allowed to have a home because his gift always requires him to move around. Right. And so he meets interesting people all over the place. Now, there's a plot twist in it. I don't want to give it away just yet.
No, don't give that away.
But he goes all across the world doing this ever since he was a child and realized that this gift. And so throughout it, there's a reflection that goes through some of the pages. And I'm speaking about it because I've already started it. I've actually already started it, right? And so there's a reflection how he got his origins of how he got to where he was, right? Because like most of us, we can relate to things like that, right? But I thought there was something because I'm always a huge proponent of putting and doing stuff in the grief field to helping people understand, but also bringing real life stories, bringing real life stories to people and saying, what if there was something out there like this, can people relate to it, and talking about the creativity, like it's another way of helping people understand the processes that is necessary in order to grieve and heal, and that there are people out here that are born a certain way. We may not understand it right off the bat until maybe a little bit later on in life, where we hit our version of rock bottom. And just like Humpty Dumpty, right? You know what I'm saying? And Humpty Dumpty has a plot twist as well. Like Terri got broken through. Terri fell off the wall and got cracked wide open. Her gift came out, and then she probably tried to put the pieces back together. Look, I'm calling her out right now, right? You know what I'm saying? So I call myself calling her out. You probably tried to put the pieces back together, and they realized that they didn't all fit because there was something that was already had taken its place on the outer shell that was still developing, right? Then you find yourself looking down, going, and you get worried, you may get scared, and go, "Oh no, I got to put this all back together," right? But then you realize, whoa, there's something else here. There's definitely something else here that, and then you want to explore that, right? So Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, had a great fall, and no one could put Humpty Dumpty back together because he wasn't meant to be put back together again,
No.
not the way that they wanted, because there was a new Humpty Dumpty that emerged. So now,
It's
wow.
not good.
Wow, this has been an amazing conversation. So before as we begin to wrap this up, Terri, I have two more questions for you. One,
Okay, cool.
Tell people how they can find you.
Okay. I just want to say one more thing before I tell them.
Yes.
I think
the love goes hard, Rachel. Is that what we're doing, Rachel? Okay.
Right. There's a reason why we love stories. There's a reason why we love movies and videos and conversations. And that's because it taps into something that we try to communicate in all these different ways, right? But actually all we are is just these beings, like, trying to understand, we're trying to experience and view the experience. We're living in like a real life, like, movie. Like, our lives are an unfolding story, and sometimes, like, a good story has tragedy in it, a good story has triumph in it, a good story. So even when we're facing real hardships and things, it's all part of our story, because without it's not a very interesting story to be like, Tony was born, had a nice life, and died, right? It might be a nice story, but it's probably not an interesting story that we would actually want to experience. So what's more interesting is that Tony went through this massive, like, all these experiences, had a transformation, connected with all these people. You know what I mean? We're creating, like, our lives as we're living it. And that's where, like, things like creativity and all that come in. That's why I think what you tapped on, sometimes we want to struggle, sometimes we want to suffer. It's all part of the experience. Yes. So I hope that's optimistic for some people, but that's if we go through things, like when you say, rather than try to move on, go through it and experience it, because then you're adding to your story. Then you're not trying to avoid it and get to the next chapter. This whole chapter is evolving through the experience of what you're going through. Right. That's how I like to see things anyway.
It's so very true, right? It was something that early on in my journey of grief or understanding and building my relationship with it, and understanding that I needed to be a student of it. I wanted so bad to understand it deeply, and what it all meant, right? And it still amazes me every time something new comes up, and so it was like, man, like, I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Because that's what we're here for. Like, that's it, isn't it? Like, if you look at it that way, that's what we're doing. We're not supposed to have the answer. We're just supposed to experience the story.
Right. And it is the experience, right? It is the experience, because of the simple fact of, when you begin to experience life on such a level, it gives you an understanding of how deeply we can connect as human beings.
Yeah.
not with ill intent towards one another. I mean, although there are people out there who will have ill intentions towards you, that's why I'm a firm believer. Make your intentions known before anything, right? What are your intentions? Because for me, I need to know your intentions before anything. What are we doing? Right?
Yeah.
What are we doing? That way, I want to, because I don't like being tricked, right? I don't
No.
like being, no, let me know your intentions so I know how to maneuver. And maybe I need to put up some boundaries or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I know what to do and what not to do. Because I want to be able to not be disrespectful towards anyone or take advantage of anyone in their journey, right? But to be a good human being. Oh, Gail. Hey, Gail, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I've just seen that comment.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm gonna pop this up here real quick. Thank you for your.
Don't try and live a normal life. So when
No, don't.
when
It's not. It's not that you know.
I pick up on these words here, right? And you're saying it's hard to do. It's hard to do because you're trying. When we're trying to do something, we're pushing against what we naturally want to do or what naturally wants to happen. And you're trying to live a normal life, but the normal that you knew before doesn't exist anymore. So this is what like a recovery process is. It's like,
yeah,
it's moving. It's what do you do now, right? So that normal life that you had before, it can't exist anymore. So finding the peace with that, finding the peace and accepting the pain in some ways. Like, and I know it sounds horrible, but the more we try not to do it, the more we're trying, the more we're fighting against ourselves. And just be where you're at. So if it's not happening at the minute, if you can't accept it, if you can't forgive, that's fine. Just accept not being able to accept it. Do you know what I mean? Like it sounds a bit contradictory, but the more we can like just show up for ourselves however we are, accept that the pain's there, don't try, you know what I mean? Don't try and be something you're not. Don't try and live a life that doesn't exist anymore. What do you do now? And it does sound a bit contradictory, and it might even be frustrating to hear or say stuff like that. But that's like that's the battle or the energy of it, you know.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
You mind if I add to it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I want to add to it because you're absolutely right, and this is the reason why we have these conversations. Look, just because self-forgiveness or acceptance never came doesn't mean that it's not going to come.
Yeah,
you have it. You have to allow yourself some grace.
Yeah,
take your time. You don't have to rush this. So what? It's been 2016. Okay, that's totally fine. There's no time limit on this. But do me a favor, Gail. Please do me a favor. Just one. Get rid of any sort of expectations that you have of the way that you think that this is supposed to go. All right. Don't look at the next person and go, I'm doing it wrong. No, you do it the way that you need to. Don't have any expectations because what it's going to do is you'll find yourself really, really frustrated. Can I, Gail, I want to share something with you. My son passed away in 2016, right? And I'm not comparing anything. I'm just going to share my experience with you. It's been 9 years. I still have days where I don't have that acceptance that he's still gone. Hell, just the other day, I posted up something. I was thinking about my son and my parents, right? And I was hurting. Now I'm a grief coach, right? So I want to share this with you. I'm a grief coach. I help men navigate this thing, but there's times where I need help navigating it as well, right? I do go in with the expectation or no expectation because I know that it may show up again. It may show up again. But what I've learned to do is that I'm very transparent. I put it up on social media. Normally, that's something for me. I will not. It took me a long time to be able to want to share that pain with someone. And I was sitting at home and I cried. I was hurting, and I still hurt. It won't go anywhere. over the years, you'll find ways. Time doesn't heal all wounds. Just find ways of growing with it. It's going to be a part of you. As much as you've loved, that's the deepness of it.
Yeah.
Just allow yourself to go through what you need to go through. There's a statement, you will grow through what you're going through, right? Allow yourself to change with it. The hardest part about this is that learning to trust yourself during the process. Trusting other people is going to be another challenge, because not everybody's going to understand what you're going through, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. But learn to trust, first and foremost, learn to trust yourself as you begin to navigate it. This is yours. This is yours. No one else's. This is yours. But please go find, surround yourself with people that can relate to what you're going through. Learn some skills, right? And just know we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Right? I want to hear from you tomorrow. I want to hear from you the next day. Right? I want to know that you're okay and everything, because we actually care about you, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we're human beings. We're human beings. So, don't rush it. I don't care if it's been 9 years or 20 years. Do what you need to do, please.
Yeah. I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Just do what you need to do, and know that you have support out here. You have people that are rooting for you, that's, you know what I'm saying, that want to walk with you and things like that. And if you look, I'm going to put this offer out here, okay? Because I got another network called the Global Grief Network, and I have people from across the world. Terry's part of it. Let us know what you need so we can connect you with the right people. We'd be willing to do that for you. Right? You know what I'm saying? And so just let us know what you need, but take it one step at a time. Learn how to breathe, and, don't have expectations on time. Please don't. So now, Terry, which leads me to my next question. And guys, thank you for the comments that you guys have been putting in.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Like that. Yeah, this is truly amazing. Rachel had us over here laughing. We had Gail on LinkedIn. We got a couple of people on YouTube that's been tuning in. The multitude of people that's been tuning in on Instagram and Facebook and Rumble and everything. Guys, you guys are freaking amazing, man. You guys are freaking amazing. And hopefully, hopefully you guys enjoy these conversations. Now, before I get my last feel, I got one more question for Miss Terri Lee-Shield.
Oh.
Terry, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, superpower. Teleportation.
Teleportation? I like that.
I love that. Yeah, I would like to be able to go somewhere and have to avoid all the moving. That would be cool.
That would be pretty cool. Now, what do you got coming up in your world? Tell people about your YouTube channel, because you have a YouTube channel as well, right? Tell people how they can find out.
If anyone's interested in connecting with me, if you go to Love School, which is loveschool.uk, there's links to all the other stuff. So I'm building up the YouTube channel. Excuse me, losing my voice. I'm building up the YouTube channel, so I'm just slowly starting to share things on there. So it'd be great to have, if people are interested, some support. And all the things that we share in Love School are based around holistic recovery and natural healing. So healing is kind of like how we mend some of the wounds that we have in ourselves, and recovery is exactly what we're saying to Gail, is how you recover yourself. Like how do I build a life now? It's different, because things happen to us and we can't go back and we can't be the same as what it was before. So we have to recover ourselves. We recover who we are now in this new place and what our life's going to be like now. We've got all this new perspective and information and whatever that is. So we cover how to love ourselves, which is mind, body, and spirit. other people. So we're looking at relationships and also like life, which is like our environments that we're in, how we connect with the world, and some of these bigger ideas of things like life and death and things like that. So there's over in Love School, with over at YouTube, sorry, which is Love School UK. I've got a podcast as well that is all linked with that. Then otherwise I'm on Facebook. I think I possibly gave you my Facebook link. I'm not sure, but I'm Terri Lee-Shield. If you search me on Facebook, I've got a couple of profiles, but the main one is a picture of me looking like this. I think I'm smiling. And there's the Love School as well, which is like say more professional. But on my personal page, I share all different things, just depending on what's inspired that's come up. So I'm always happy to connect with people on that as well. What else have I got going on? I'm actually what I'm going to do next, I think, because I get inspired by lots of different things, is I'm going to be looking at how to. I'm kind of going full circle. So this month I've kind of been chatting to people about grief. Actually, that came up, and then I think next month I'm going to be focusing on physical recovery, how we can look after ourselves and our bodies, because I found the more that we can tune into our body and connect with our body and give it what it needs, it kind of gives us the fuel then to be able to be more present with other stuff. So, and how I kind of overcome chronic illness and things like that, chronic pain. If you're in a lot of pain, like sometimes that's emotional pain, sometimes that represents as physical pain when we're holding tension and things in our body. It can be like physical pain and stuff. So it all connects. So anyway, I'm probably going to be doing that. So look out on YouTube, loveschool.uk. Facebook, I think, is loveschool.uk as well. Or connect with me, Terri Lee-Shield, and go to the website if you were interested. If you're interested in inner child healing, that there's a course there on that. There's a few other different courses and different things I do. But if you're not sure about anything, just message us. I am a real person, so if you send us a message on Love School or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, I'll respond. I'm
love
here.
That. I love that. And guys, this is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys already know, thank you guys. Oh, thank you, Terri. Thank you so much for being a part of here. Beautiful conversation. We have to do this again, part two. And for everyone who has been tuning in, thank you guys for always allowing me to keep bringing these conversations to you guys. But most importantly, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, please do me a favor, share it along with them. This may not be for you just yet, right? But we have something for everyone. So always keep an eye out for it, and then let us know how we can serve you and keep doing better. And guys, with that being said, I have one more update for you guys. You guys know that my second book came out, the Men Grieve 2. You guys can go to lulu.com. Y'all can pick that up. It's under my name, Tony Lynch. Get yourself that copy. But most importantly, you guys, update. The conference, the Global Grief Conference 2025 is coming up April 25th, 26th, and 27th. This has been a conference that I've hosted for 3 years. We started back in 2022, and we're still going. We're doing it big this year as well. You guys, it's going to be live streaming, free to attend. You guys have probably seen a lot of the other streams that I've been doing with the presenters. Guys, you know what I'm saying? Don't wait. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to register. You can watch it across all your platforms, right? So be sure to tune in on there. And just guys, just keep an eye out for the presenters that are going to be coming. We got some amazing things: live music, live comedy, 3 days of a live stream event, podcasting, table talks, presentations, you name it. We got something for everybody. Children, adults, men, women, it don't matter who you are, right? You know what I'm saying? So guys, keep your eyes out for that. And as always, thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. And thank you for allowing me to keep doing this. And we're going to see you guys in the next one, right? You know what I'm saying? You guys have an amazing day. Peace.